Welcome back, everyone, to the Inside Sports Podcast. It is now 2023, second semester for us. We're really excited to get you guys going. Thank you to all of our listeners who have been listening to us religiously for the past couple of months. We're trying to grow. We're trying to keep it going. You know, something that everybody keeps on asking me, right? They say, Cole, Joey, and Jordan, you know, Inside Sports Podcast, is that with the DE capitalized at the end? And you know what I tell them? I always tell them, yes, of course. We always have the daily Egyptian capitalized at the end of it. So let's just go ahead and jump into it. Joey, how about you talk to us a little bit about women's basketball and how they've been doing?
Well, it was a little bit of a rough game yesterday against Belmont. It was a 56-point loss against them. That is just obviously not what you want to see against a conference rival. But
that's true.
We're sitting at 7-10 right now, 4-4 in the MVC. There's still loads of the season left, but it's starting to kind of just look like more of a transition year, which we kind of knew that coming in with a new head coach. All those seniors going away from last season, we've been talking about it over and over again.
Of course.
Throughout the year, but as we know, we still can put up some points throughout the season. We have some offensive firepower, and I kind of did a little stat here that I figured out. Would you believe me if I told you that we actually put up more points per game this year than we did last year? I just thought that was pretty surprising.
Really?
And it's almost by 10 full points. So I was
That's
like, wow.
That's actually really well.
And with last year's team, they put up 62 points per game through 17 games. And then at this point, we're only 17 games in the season. We're putting up 71 points per game. So, and obviously those two 100-point games helps that average. But still, I think it's showing of what this team is at right now. And we definitely need some help on the defensive side if we're going to give up 100 points to Belmont like that. So, but yeah, like I said, I just think this is just a transition year into what we could possibly be doing in the next couple of years. I want to start believing in Kelly.
Yeah, I believe in Kelly wholeheartedly. I think that this team has shown a lot of potential this year, you know. It's like you just said it, right? Over and over again we're talking about this is a whole new team, almost entirely new. And it's just fun to see, you know. Yes, we have rough losses like Belmont, right? But then we also have a kind of a nice upset win over Murray State. And we have these good games where we put up 100 points against Tennessee State and, in all honesty, was it Chicago State, right?
Yeah.
No, Chicago State, where we scored 115. And I think that it really just speaks to our team where we were talking before the year, right? Who's going to be our number one leading scorer? Who's going to be able to do that for us? And from what it seems like, that's almost kind of a blessing, right? Because last year there would be times where I remember we would talk, you know, through our sports desk, and we'd say, you know, Mackenzie Sylvia and Abby Brockmeyer, right, are awesome. There's no denying that, of course, but we almost kind of relied on them for points sometimes. So I think that the reason why you're seeing a lot of these really high-scoring games is sometimes the team is just distributing the ball and moving super, super well, and you really like to see that. I think there's a lot of promise. I'm really excited for next year, more than really I am for this year. But that doesn't mean we're a bad team this year.
No, yeah, and you see it all across college sports. Sometimes they're professional, but especially in college. You know, if your team isn't good the year before, that's okay. You have the number one pick. You have a high draft pick. Well, college doesn't work like that. We were a great team last year, and we lost a lot. And the fact that we've come out and had these big performances, 100 points twice this season. I mean, think about it. The good teams weren't able to do that, as Joey talked about. And so to have those bright moments and see that, you know, we may not have all the pieces, but we're still 4-4 in conference, still 7-10 overall with some huge wins. This team has a bright future. I'm really, really excited to see where we go from here in the following years. I believe in Kelly Bond-White. I know you guys do too. It's been fun to see, man. I'm really proud of this team.
Yeah. For this next week, we've got Drake coming up on Thursday, and then obviously our pod will come out on Friday, but then they'll be playing Northern Iowa on that following Saturday. So we're hoping to get 2 wins out of that. You don't know with this team, but, you know, there's definitely a hope, right? There's always a good chance. How about you go ahead and tell us about basketball, Jordan?
Sure. I mean, well, men's basketball. I mean,
yes.
I don't even know where to start. There's been so many good things. They're winning on the road. Just beat Missouri State on the road, and Evansville at home relatively decisively. Evansville kind of, unpredictably hung around a little bit longer in that game, put up some points toward the end.
That is true.
Still got to win 16-5 overall. Now, I knew this team was deep. You can go back and watch me. I said it. This team was deeper than the last few teams have been. But the fact that they're 16-5, I can't even believe I'm saying that. 8-2 in the conference, currently first in the Missouri Valley. The other day, I was looking on ESPN's bracketology, right? And typically for the mid-majors, they just put whoever's at the top of the standings in their bracket prediction or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
To see us in there was crazy. I honestly couldn't believe it. And honestly, I don't have any wood around me. But if I had any wood, I would knock on it. If we somehow get there, I'm not going to care who we play. Just the fact that we have the opportunity to think about getting there is crazy.
Now, let me interrupt you just real quick,
Yes.
because I want to talk to you about this. I think it's a good thing that we can kind of discuss. Me and Joey recently were at one of the games, and we said to ourselves, Missouri Valley's tough. I think everybody kind of understands that.
Yep.
Is there a chance for an at-large bid with this SIU team? And I was looking at our remaining schedule, and the toughest team we've got, let me find it here. We've got Murray State tomorrow. The pod will come out, so you guys will have seen whether they win or lose on that Tuesday. But we've got Murray State. I saw we have Drake. And Drake's a pretty talented team.
Yeah.
They haven't totally lived up to expectations, but they're very talented.
Mhm.
But, we also play UIC twice the rest of the way. We played Bradley, kind of these middling teams where we've been able to put away a lot of those teams. Now, that doesn't mean that there are some tough tests, but at the same time, do you think it's even a possibility that SIU gets an at-large bid if we lose in the tournament?
They'd have to almost, in my opinion, they'd have to almost run the table the rest
Yeah.
of this regular season, and then maybe lose in the championship
Mhm.
or any team like a Belmont, for example, who I
Yes.
think also has 2 losses in conference.
Yes.
They'd have to almost run the table the rest of this season and maybe lose in the championship to have a resume that stacks up to a team like a bubble team that's mid-tier in the SEC
Mhm.
or the Big Ten or whatever.
That's a good point, yes.
So when the committee's deciding against them, we'd have some leverage over them. We obviously do have that out-of-conference win at Oklahoma State,
Yep.
and they're a team that may or may not make the tournament depending on how they do in the tough Big 12. But yeah, it's a possibility. It definitely is a possibility, but it's still not a great one. I think, like I said, I think either us or Belmont's probably gonna have to run the table.
Interesting.
I think I'd probably have to say the same thing, except I feel like we'd have to put some double-digit wins in there.
Right.
Some pretty confident
That's
wins.
true.
Against.
No, absolutely.
I'm not sure if we're done with Belmont the rest of the year. You said we have UIC. Coming up.
Belmont's good. I don't believe
I don't think we do go to Belmont.
Yeah,
No.
I
No.
think for this year it's just we play them.
And our victory over them was pretty decisive
It
at
was.
home on that New Year's Day game.
it
62
looks
point.
really good in that
Yeah,
respect.
18-point win, only allowing them to score 44 points. That was a fantastic win. It just carried us into this fantastic stretch of basketball.
But yeah, these have been some impressive wins so far. Just reeling off, 11 of the last 12 I think that we've reeled off. I think Lance Jones has finally figured out his 3-point
That's true.
shooting. His
He had some
percentage
early
is going up.
season struggles, that's for sure.
For sure. And I think him and Damascus have been able to lead us. Plus, Xavier Johnson has really just came in. I talked a little bit, a couple podcasts ago, just about needing that third guy, and I think it's Xavier Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
He shows up most of the time. If not, it's Clarence Rupert. If not, J.D. Mula. He's always our rebound guy, right at the basket. So I just think this team has a really good direction ahead of it so far.
Yeah, I kind of want to touch on that a little bit too, because I think that Brian Mullins had an incredible offseason this past
Mhm.
year. You got to talk about, we get Cade Hornecker, right, who's like a 3-star rated prospect. That's something that SIU, we can feel proud when we hang our head on a 3-star prospect.
Yeah.
And so we're built for the future that way. But if we're talking about transfers, Xavier Johnson, like you mentioned, right, he's our third best guy. Juwan Newton has been really, really good for us.
Mhm.
Clarence Rupert, I love the way that Clarence Rupert plays. I think he's perfect. He's almost kind of like this Scotty Barnes, almost
Yeah.
sort of role where he's big guy, but he can dribble.
Mhm.
He can go up there if he needs to, and he does his role very, very well. I remember it was one of the recent games. I can't remember whether it was Evansville or something else, but he was just going off on defense and then grabbing offensive boards, and it's just so helpful. And obviously having all those returning guys like Lance really showing out. He had the torch on for quite a while, but then now you've just got Damask, who had 30 against Evansville, so they're almost kind of doing all right, well, you take it this night. It's almost like a Larry Bird, Kevin McHale of one of those situations where they're. We'll have to talk to them and ask if they're. Let's edit that out. We'll have to talk to them and ask if they're just handing the torch before the games or not, because it seems like one of them just takes control of the game whenever we need it. So.
I wonder if Brian Mullins has kind of played his way into a new contract with SIU.
Yeah.
Because
That's a potential thing.
If he makes a tournament, then I'm sure that there'll be some talks in the offseason.
for sure.
Of course, there's got to be.
Another 3-star recruit coming in too. I forget his name. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That'll be it for us on this week's Dogs of the Vet. No Saluki space this week, because apparently Mr. Lance Jones putting on for the team won't respond back. I think it's too cool, so...
He's busy working on his 3-point shots.
That's right. He's still working on a 3-point shot.
Yeah.
That's right. We'll try and get Lance or Clarence or one of the guys to be on the pod next week. We'll let you guys know. So let's go ahead and get into the Told You So segment, where I finished the year going 29-24. I had a pretty rough end of the year, if I'm being honest. It's been a long time since we checked in. It's honestly been a long time since the college football season ended. But, alas, I think we should kind of do a little bit of a catch-up. So I was wrong about the Orange Bowl, Rose Bowl, Cotton Bowl, and the Fiesta Bowl. But I got the Sugar and Peach Bowl correct with Georgia and Bama winning. Turns out I just picked the SEC teams. But then again, like, all the teams that were supposed to win, or at least I felt like were supposed to win.
You're tanking for next year.
If you're if you're looking at legacy, you know, like Tennessee in the past 10 years to beat Clemson. Penn State in the past 10 years. Okay, that's an argument to be made with Utah.
They do.
But then what? Tulane beats USC? That's not fair. TCU beats Michigan? Ugh, it was rough. That was fun, though. And I would like to say that I know that I called it out on the pod when I said TCU does have a slight edge there. Granted, I didn't pick them, so I'm not going to make claim to that.
Yeah. Put your money where your mouth is.
I just want to throw it out there that they hadn't seen anything like Duggan, and clearly they didn't because they put up 51 points on a really good Michigan defense. I also think it's important to mention, if you go all the way back to the first episode, me and Mr. Joey Bernard here, before Jordan Cruz was ever even a part of the show, I went ahead and picked Caleb Williams for my Heisman.
Right.
And he ends up winning the Heisman. It's no biggie or anything, you know. Honestly, that matters way more than all this other stuff. So
Totally. Kind of the
Yeah,
last minute
yeah.
edge shoe in there for the Heisman.
Yeah,
there you go. Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah, whatever. And so, you know, I think there's just a lot of interesting stuff to talk about, just real quick, because I know we have NFL, and the NFL playoffs are in full effect right now, so that's obviously lots of fun. But does anybody disagree that Bryce Young is the number one pick in the draft? Or at least should be. Not to the Bears. I'm just saying, if you're a team, typically it's normally a quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Is he the number one prospect in the draft? Could you argue that? And it was a little bit undersized.
I say so.
Yeah.
I mean,
think?
the problem with Stroud is that we'll probably talk about the Georgia game in a minute. I haven't been able to cry any more tears about that. It'll be okay. But the problem with Stroud is that what he did in the Georgia game was the only time he did that in his entire college career.
Very true.
Where he put the team on his back, he used his legs, he made some amazing throws. He played an awesome game against Georgia.
He did.
But Bryce Young, he's made plays throughout his entire career. Now, granted, the last couple Bama teams with him at the helm, not great, but you could also chalk that up to his receivers just not being great either. I mean, how many receivers have they had transfer since the end of the season? Probably like at least 3 or 4, right?
Plenty.
And these were guys that were like, number 1, 2, and 3 receivers on his team. So he hasn't dealt with the best environment, especially with that wide receiver room. I do think I don't know if he's the obvious number 1 pick, but I do think he is the number 1 pick. And someone, hopefully, is going to trade up and give the Bears a nice haul for that number 1 pick. And we can talk about that as we get closer to the draft. But yeah, I do think it is Bryce Young.
In my mind, the lack of Alabama success is almost why I like Bryce Young much more, right? Where I was watching him struggle, not him struggle, but his team struggle against Texas. His team struggle against everything. Because the NFL is hard. Everybody knows that. And I think that when you look at a guy like Bryce Young, who's scrambling around, he's making all these great plays. I mean, I'll be out there and I'll say that I was a little bit of a Bryce Young hater, especially before the year. I was like, guys, it's Bama. He's small. He's undersized. I honestly thought he was a little bit of a pretty boy. But with how much he really put it all in the field this year. I mean, there were so many times where you were watching these games, right? You couldn't think back, not even to the Texas game, but you look back at the Tennessee game. I mean, he's carrying that team to 49 points. I mean, if they have Ty Simpson out there, if they have anyone of even Mac Jones, right?
Yeah.
It's not nearly as successful, and that's honestly why he's won me over. And I hate to say it because I have been a Bryce Young hater in the past, but I just can't. I can't get rid of this one. I think that he's the number 1 pick.
I think
It's just a little undersized.
I think the perfect way to put it is in the past when they had Mac Jones and Jake Coker and AJ McCarron. That's really throwing it back here. Bama won games in spite of their quarterback play. Now they're winning games because of their quarterback play, and in spite of honestly the rest of the team, which is just it's just the new age of Bama football now. Georgia's kind of doing that now. They're winning games in spite of their quarterback, who did play really well. We got to give him some credit. But yeah, it's weird how the tides have turned for Alabama, and I think that'll ultimately end up helping Bryce Young in the future.
Yeah, let's talk about Georgia real quick because
we don't have to do that.
I'm sure that game was rough for you as an Ohio State fan. It was close. No Ruggles. I mean, what even was that kick? That's a college kicker for you.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I mean, Georgia, you can't even feel bad about losing that one because Georgia is just a whole new beast. I mean, they are just unrelenting. They're unbelievable. The amount of times, and this is almost kind of a fault to them, right? Because you had games where it was the Missouri game. There was one other game. I think it was even Vandy. I can't remember which one. They just didn't show up for. I mean, and you got this team that's so talented that you kind of almost worry about them. But then when you see them against the Tennessees, right, Oregon to open the year, in the championship game, I mean, they come out unlike any team that I've ever seen. I've only been a college football fan for around roughly, 6-7 years of my life, but God, do they put it on you? I mean, they really. I mean, it's the largest bowl game discrepancy in history.
Yeah,
that's insane. So, as a college football fan and as somebody who had to play against them, what were your thoughts playing against that Ohio State team?
Well, you described, and this is a homer take, but you described them as this unstoppable beast. They weren't an unstoppable beast in that Ohio State game.
That's true.
And one could argue, had Marvin Harrison not gotten out, we're probably not having this conversation right now.
That's very true.
That definitely was targeting, by the way. But even so, the real reason Ohio State lost this game was because of the defense. And that had been, at the beginning of the year, defense was really, really good. But then you get to play these more talented teams. We struggled against Penn State, obviously struggled against Michigan, especially in that second half with the big plays, struggled against Georgia. They had a good maybe quarter and a half. That's when we kind of took the lead. But in the end, guys are slipping down, falling down, wide open touchdown. Then we let Stetson Bennett drive right down the field, score a touchdown to give Georgia the lead at the end. We hired Jim Knowles to come in and fix the defense. That was really bad in 21. And while it got better, it didn't get good enough. And we've clearly still got a long way to go. But obviously, credit to Stetson Bennett, credit to Georgia. I mean, Stetson Bennett is a 2-time champion.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't care that the rest of his team is 5 stars. How many guys in college football have been 2-time champions as quarterbacks? Not too many.
That's very true.
Did McCarron win 2 in a row at Alabama?
I think he only won one.
He only won one?
He might have made it to 2, but
yeah, quarterbacks aren't. That just doesn't happen.
That doesn't.
It doesn't happen very often.
You think about Trevor Lawrence, right?
Yeah.
Everybody after his freshman year was like, "This is the golden child." He is literally the perfect quarterback. There's no way they don't win 3 straight, and then of course he only ends up with 1.
Yeah.
So the fact that Stetson Bennett could do that is still very, very impressive. I completely agree with you. I think if there's one clip that anybody should watch, if they go, well, what? Somebody who doesn't watch college football, they go, okay, well, how much does Georgia really dominate? You should watch the 3rd or 4th touchdown that Stetson Bennett scores in the second quarter of the TCU game when they flank it out. It's a QB run, and there's 2 giant Georgia defenders that or not defenders, but linemen, yes, that they bring out, and TCU doesn't even have anybody there because their 3 linemen did a good enough job of stopping everybody, and Stetson Bennett just lollygags into the end zone. I think that perfectly encapsulates how good Georgia was this year.
What did this year's playoffs do for kind of his draft stock? Does he have another year left?
Stetson?
No, he's done.
I hope so. I mean, he's had 8 years of college football.
Yeah.
He's older than 1/4 of the quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah.
They were showing stats about that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
He's way older than Lamar, all these guys. But,
wow.
Yeah.
I loved this weekend of football. Even though some of them were kind of blowouts, I just love the little questions that we're going to be asking, kind of heading into the season for some of the teams that lost a little bit. Just Dak, his play against the Niners really is making some people just think wow, should the Cowboys move on from him?
Yeah. It's almost similar to how the Packers have this aging quarterback not playing very well. They didn't even make the playoffs.
No way! I thought they were running the table.
Yeah,
they were the table, right?
Okay, it was going to happen.
Oh, okay. Well, surely
weren't they going to have to play the Niners first round?
And they were going to upset them finally after all these years.
That's what's going to happen.
I hate myself.
Surely they.
That was a very miserable day.
I'm sure it was.
I was very confident in all that. It was just the freaking Lions at home, and of course they lay a dud. But everything like that doesn't happen for us Packers fans heading into the playoffs when the time comes for that.
Packers fans, don't they have it so well?
That was miserable.
It's so bad.
But anyways, just talking about this past weekend, I brought up Dak. Is he going to be on the Cowboys next year? Will they move on into? Will they draft a QB? Will they get somebody in free agency? I heard some rumors even that they would try to go after Rodgers. I think that's just smoke right now, just after a day. But even Daniel Jones, did he just play himself into a new contract or whatever?
Oh, that's true. Daniel Jones' emergence has been awesome.
I know, I loved it this year. And then even the Bills yesterday, they just seem to do a choke job every year in the playoffs, just like Green Bay. Even though they didn't do it in the playoffs this year, they did it in Week 18.
I think it's a good way of comparing them. I think the Bills are just the Packers of the AFC.
Yeah.
I think they always have like a good team.
Definitely.
Yeah.
They always got one star receiver, their star quarterback, and they build a good team. But
It makes me wonder if it's not Diggs on the Bills anymore. Who is it?
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It's
It
just
is
on
a-
the Bills.
yeah, it's Stephon Diggs.
Oh yeah, because I always get Diggs and Justin Jefferson mixed up now. It makes me wonder if Diggs is going to want to stay on the Bills anywhere.
You
If
see that
he'll
clip
wanna
of him?
trade.
He was yelling
Yeah,
at
because
Josh
he
Allen.
was yelling at
sideline.
Josh Allen, but
And they're like buddy. So.
yeah, but I just think that's just in the heat of the moment, playoff time. you
I'm
know,
sure.
Whatever. That's probably just smoke too. But,
Or maybe it isn't. Anyways.
Or maybe. But all these questions are just coming up now with some of these playoff teams. Just their season is done, and they had championship aspirations like the Bills and Cowboys and everything. I just love it all. But anyways, talking about the games this week, I'm super excited for them. I feel like they could go either way.
They're so good.
They're
So
great.
Like I don't
So
remember
they're
them being
so good.
like, at least during a lot of the moments of my childhood, I'm like this is the first year in a long time where I'm like, oh my god, like I'm stoked for these games. You know what I'm saying?
Both of them, I feel like, might go wide.
Yeah,
wide.
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
sure. I
Definitely.
really wouldn't be surprised if overtime happened. Neither one of them either.
No. Yeah.
Review of my picks. I went 32 for 45 this year. Finished with a 71% CPP. Love that for me. I guess
You
I
wanna
was
know-
the top dog.
You want to know what's really funny about this?
What is fun?
Is that most of the picks you got wrong were picking the Packers to win football games.
That's very true.
That's fact.
It's very true because I had more confidence.
If you had
as a
picked against the
fan.
Packers, you probably
I might
would've
be
got
like
them.
up to 80% or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
But of course,
This is the week they turn it around.
call me a fanboy sometimes. I love my Packers, but
Uh-huh.
my God, the Niners and the Eagles are going to start off on Sunday at 3. Wow, I just love this Niners team. Even though I hate the San Francisco Niners, I love the way they're built. They're just, in a way, I don't want to overreact, but like they just seem to be reimagining how like a football team can be built. They don't need to revolve around the QB anymore.
Yeah.
Even though the QB is such an essential part to a football team, I feel like Brock Purdy is just he isn't very turnover prone, I
Yeah.
should say.
Yeah.
So he's almost like a game manager in a way to me. But he plays good enough for them to do well with how they're built. Their defense attacks, their pass rush is just amazing. And then their offensive line is great. McCaffrey as well. They didn't have him at the start of the year, but he's emerged as their number one back, of course. I just love this Niners team. I think they're going to take it against the Eagles, to be honest. Jalen Hurts balled out this year, as I predicted in episode 1.
You did. Is he the MVP though?
He's not the MVP, but
That's
I
what I
didn't
thought.
say that he'd be the MVP. I made it a point to say, we all know this. We've been through this.
You're right. You're right. He's had an awesome year. He exceeded my expectations.
Right. The Eagles are for sure a tough team, but I think the way that the Niners are built, for them to travel and beat the Eagles on the road is it's a perfect like matchup.
Yeah.
Defense, run game, and like their special teams too. That's just become a factor. As long as they don't make mistakes, it helps them win football games. So I'm picking the Niners here. 24, Eagles 20.
Let's go Niners. I'm with you.
You're with me?
I'm with you. I'll explain why, but I want to hear
Just
yours.
listen.
I heard a little scoff when you said Niners over Eagles.
No, I actually agree.
Oh, okay,
And
okay.
I want the Niners to win. There's like, I don't know if they're fun to watch, but if I was
come on, yeah.
they're fun to
Christian
watch,
McCaffrey
but they're
took
not.
Hill.
But they're not this kind of team that's going to throw deep balls, get 40-yard, 50-yard
No, you're
touchdowns.
right. Yeah, you're
Like
right,
the
you're
Bengals, for example, with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, and I know you're going to talk about that in a second.
I can't wait.
But you didn't give any sort of shine to the Eagles. I just want to make sure the Eagles get a couple minutes. I mean, they crushed the Giants
They did.
on Sunday. And I was thinking about this earlier. The Giants beat the Vikings, right? And we all kind of acted like that was some great win, but at the same time, we all knew that the Vikings were...
The Minnesota Frauds.
It was literally...
They would have lost to any team in these playoffs. Like, we know that. We all know that. And so maybe we overhyped the Giants a little bit when we forgot that we all knew the Vikings weren't as good. Does this make sense? I'm kind of doing some
I completely agree with
property
you. I mean, the
stuff.
Giants, personally, they haven't given out the awards, I believe.
No.
But Brian Dable certainly has an argument in my top 2 for Coach of the Year
Yeah.
candidates,
Mhm.
just because you talked about this Giants team before the year. I think something that's becoming more and more popular in the NFL is like, how many good players do you have? Like, it's almost sort of becoming the NBA. Like, a
Mhm.
lot of times you used to just be like, do you have a good team that works well
Right.
together?
Yeah.
But I looked at the Giants roster and I was like, I mean, Saquon obviously, but who even knew Saquon was going to play this year because he's hurt every year.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
But the fact that they were a 6th seed, they made it to the divisional round, like that's really impressive.
Yeah.
That's a really impressive year for the Giants.
That's a win. For sure.
Big time with it.
They need to get some receivers too.
They need some bad.
Absolutely.
Darius Slayton like their number one receiver.
Yeah, exactly. Or Hodgins or Richie James. I do have a stat for you though. Despite having not won a Super Bowl yet, since Kyle Shanahan became the 49ers coach in 2017, he is 7-1 against the spread in the playoffs.
That's wild.
That is pretty wild. I mean, he's a win. He's a winner, and even if he doesn't win, he keeps it close.
Mm-hmm.
I think the spread for this game is like 2.5 maybe. So
are the Niners favored?
No, the Eagles are favored.
I'm honestly
just by
surprised,
2.5 though.
Everybody's riding on the Niners right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure what people are gonna say. Obviously, you think the Niners are gonna win. I'm gonna ride with you on that. But yeah, Kyle Shanahan, he knows how to win.
Yes, he does. I think that, and this is just one more thing that I want to touch on a little bit, was Brock Purdy, right? You talk about him being turnover prone. Because the thing is, when you talk about a game manager, at least in my mind, I don't think of a guy like Brock Purdy because Brock Purdy's like, he's just so fun. Like the way he scrambles out, there's a lot of times where he does like these little duck juke moves. And I mean, there was stuff that scared me at Iowa State. I never thought he'd be that great in the league. Obviously, we know Kyle Shanahan is literally a QB savant.
He doesn't really have the arm strength.
So you're right, he doesn't have like a stellar arm, but what I do think is that, restart that again. God, why is it every time? Every time.
It's okay. We're good.
Okay. You're right, he doesn't have the stellar arm, right? But I just think his ability to make plays, like, it's kind of like what I was alluding to with the game manager thing. When I think of a game manager, I think of like Nick Mullen, right?
Oh, yeah.
Years ago for Kyle Shanahan, and Kyle Shanahan managed to make that work. But when I see Brock Purdy out in the field, and he's leaning, and there are some throws that definitely gets him in trouble, but he reminds me of almost a Taylor Heineke. But the thing is about Taylor Heineke, right, is he's like, I don't care. I'm a third string, second string quarterback. 40-yard bomb. Now, Brock Purdy somehow, he's almost got like this luck to him that's like, even though he does some of those bombs, they don't get picked off. Like, he doesn't have that many interceptions. He doesn't have that many turnovers, and that's what I like about Brock so much, is that he's very fun to watch. But he is almost like a
I feel like he has some, like, just confidence about himself.
Yeah.
That he just looks like he belongs there when he plays for whatever reason. But even though he is he's Mr. Irrelevant, literally. But
which that's just so. I mean, that's such an awesome story.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? That's so cool.
Okay, that gets blown up a little bit. I mean,
what are you talking about?
It is cool.
Like, they literally, like, imagine a league creates a name for the last guy picked in the draft, Mr. Irrelevant.
Yeah.
And then that guy ends up. I mean, the Niners could win the Super Bowl this year. What if he wins the Super Bowl?
I just think they just keep throwing out Mr. Irrelevant on him like he's just nothing.
It's because he is.
He made it to the NFL.
He's the name
he
of the
was,
right. That's true.
Like, he might end up being the GOAT, Mr. Irrelevant.
Yeah.
Even if the Niners cut him after this year.
Yeah.
But if they win a Super Bowl, how many Mr. Irrelevants have you been?
I mean, I feel like you could honestly, whatever.
Isn't there like some kickers and like Ryan Suckup or something who's
something like that?
Yeah. How many other QBs have been Mr. Irrelevant? I wonder. Like,
I'll tell you what.
It's almost always like a punter or a kicker or like a linebacker.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can't name them, I guess. But.
So, I stand with you, Brock. I know you're watching, so just know that I love it.
I still think he's a great QB right now. I mean, he's playing really well, to be honest. His accuracy has gotten them to this point, but yeah, I think they're gonna.
Okay, well let's throw this out, right?
Oh boy.
Niners go, and they win the Super Bowl. What the hell did the Niners do at quarterback?
Jimmy G, Brock Purdy, and Trey Lance on the same roster.
I feel like you move on from Trey Lance and keep the other two.
Of course, I'm with you.
Keep the other two, because, like, I know Lance has seen limited time, but it's not like they were lighting the world. Well, I honestly have no idea.
No, but you're right.
I don't know.
I mean,
I'm saying that. I'm saying that now, but we haven't seen a full season of Trey Lance yet.
That's true, but think about the first 4 games of the Niners, right? Where I'm pretty sure they set at 2-2. They lost to the Bears, and I know that was a weird game because of all the rain and all that stuff.
He still didn't play well though.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, Trey Lance, I hate his mechanics.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't be talking down on a Missouri Valley football guy.
No, yeah.
But at the same time, like, I didn't really love him coming out of college. I mean, I liked his tools. I liked for him to sit, but it was clear when we saw him. There was nothing, like, there's almost nothing that you can watch with Trey Lance that you go like, oh my God, I get why he was picked at 3.
Yeah.
Like, he's a good runner. But you know who else is like a good runner? Is like Brock Purdy. Like, he can scramble out and get you 6 yards. He's not going to be like the I guess, horse.
Yeah.
What's the name? Let's cut that.
Stallion?
No, like
Mustang.
What do they call it? Like a workhorse? Workhorse.
Oh, yeah.
He's not really the workhorse that Trey Lance could be, right? Where you could run him almost like Josh Allen, especially in the end zone. But I I just think that from what we've seen of Trey Lance, like I like Brock Purdy more than Trey Lance, and I'll put that out there, and I'll stand by that take.
Sure.
I mean, I see what your point is. I honestly think they would probably still want to keep Trey Lance because I feel like with Kyle Shanahan, there's more. It broadens the type of plays on their offense of what they can do if they keep Trey Lance. So even though
would you trade Jimmy G? What would you do in this?
Yeah, I would try to find a way to trade at least one of them. Probably Jimmy G.
You
honestly.
have to because you can have 3 quarterbacks.
It's just such an amazing question, to be honest.
'Cause as a
Honestly,
fan
I would want to go with just the all-around best passer, and the best passer right now is Brock Purdy.
No, it's
Jimmy
probably
G,
Jimmy G.
probably.
It's gotta be
Jimmy G.
Yeah.
But Jimmy G, right?
I mean,
turns the ball over like once or twice a game. and
that's
you go,
what
"Oh my
I'm
God."
thinking.
Yeah.
Like Brock Purdy.
Brock Purdy doesn't do that.
He's got the
No.
miracle going right now.
No, he doesn't.
And what are you gonna do? You're gonna trade the guy who won you a Super Bowl?
No,
I
absolutely
mean,
not.
for your fan base.
No, yeah. No, they didn't.
No, they
He
signed
had
Nick
another
Foles,
season.
and then and then they traded Nick Foles.
Yeah.
It wasn't right
he's-
away.
Yeah. I
Really?
promise.
Oh yeah. You're right.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. That is my bad.
Because then they lost
Yeah,
to
they
the
gave him the
Saints
one-
after.
yeah. That's true.
What
One
I
more
think.
season.
I just think it's really interesting to
Yeah.
see.
What I think it is that with Purdy and Garoppolo, they know. Okay, Kyle Shanahan's a great freaking coach.
Mhm.
Offensive genius, right?
Mhm.
They know that if they just do what they're asked, that they're going to be successful.
That's
Trey
true.
Lance might be a guy where, and there's reports obviously that Kyle Shanahan didn't even want him. But Trey Lance is probably a guy where he's like, okay, I need to make a play. You don't have to make a play in Kyle Shanahan's offense as
Just
a
need to
quarterback.
be-
I'm not saying that us 3 would have the same success as Brock Purdy.
Well,
But what
don't
I am,
speak for all
but
of
what
us.
I am saying,
Just-
what I am
okay.
saying though is that we would probably have a lot of confidence if we were playing in Kyle Shanahan's
Oh
system.
yeah.
We know that we don't have
I
to
mean, I'll
do
tell you what, I'd
everything.
feel a hell of a lot better than if I was playing in Vince Lombardi's system. Or
Absolutely.
not Vince. What's his? Come on.
No, or not Vince,
Chargers.
Michael.
Yeah, Mike Lombardi.
Vince
Um,
Lombardi.
Yeah, whatever.
That
Shut
system.
Run the power
Shut
sweep
up.
and play.
up. Power sweep.
In the alley.
Yeah, I just think I wouldn't be able to trade Brock. I think you're 100% right about Trey Lance.
Yeah.
But I also kind of like his idea where like Shanahan might look at Trey Lance and go, he does make things fun. Like he would. You could just throw him out on the goal line. Would you switch Trey Lance's position?
Nah,
No.
no. I guarantee you, there's a bigger chance
You
of
kind of make him a Taysom Hill like.
there's a bit. Oh, this is my hot take of the day. There's a better chance that Trey Lance is not on the 49ers next year than it is that he's like the long-term starter or that he's starting
Oh, that's
game
not a
one
hot
next
take.
year.
Come on now.
That's
Is that not
Yeah.
okay? Well, either way, I don't think he'll ever be the long-term starter as the Niners.
Yeah. I don't think he can. Yeah.
Was Jimmy
No.
G's we need to probably start moving on, but I just want to ask: was Jimmy G's contract just a 1 year? Did they sign him to,
I'm
or was
not
it
sure. I
2
couldn't
years?
tell you.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I'd like to look at that.
Yeah.
That
to see.
might help answer.
If
this
he's on the
question.
chopping block, I mean, I was a big proponent of trade Jimmy G to the Giants, but now who looks like an idiot?
Yeah,
Daniel
no,
Jones is
yeah.
playing well now, so
I'd be willing to bet it's Trey Lance and Brock Purdy next
Yeah.
year. Jimmy G will probably.
Mm-hmm.
interesting. I like that.
That's fair.
Come on, tell us about the
Okay.
Bengals and Chiefs.
All right, Bengals
Come
and
on.
we
Chiefs.
go.
This is a really good game too. Okay, Joe Burrow has gotten Patrick Mahomes 3 times in a row.
yeah.
Is Patrick Mahomes going to get revenge this time? Because we said that the 3rd time that they played in the regular season, and they still. The Bengals are
Mahomes
hot
almost
right
doesn't
now.
have kryptonite though. Like I feel like he's due.
Yeah.
Like Mahomes is kind of due.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
They've been due the
Dude.
last few times they played the Bengals.
I know.
About a
I
year
thought
ago.
that it was
They
coming.
didn't really play the greatest against the Jags, and they
No.
probably should have done a lot better. Although I did predict in the group chat that the Jags were going to cover, and they did.
They did.
Because it was 7.5. They lost by 7.
There you
so
go.
they covered. I said they could win too, and they did. But we'll forget about that. Anyways, the Bengals are pretty hot right now. They're 10 wins in a row. One of those is against the Chiefs, like I mentioned. I think they're just trying to blow up this ankle injury. It looked terrible,
Yeah.
but I feel like obviously Mahomes is going to play through this in the AFC Championship game. Chiefs are crazy good. I just think the Bengals have been their kryptonite, and I feel like that's just going to keep rolling. Them playing on the road just doesn't even matter to me.
I mean, they went into
I just
Buffalo
think-
on a snowy night.
Yeah,
They played really well.
they've
Yeah.
proved that they can do that in environments where they don't belong, and they dominated against the Bills. Who, honestly, before the season, I thought the Bills were going to win the Super Bowl, and now they're just done for. So,
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens with that. That might explode pretty soon. But.
somebody who I think is probably going to be just an X factor that people are just overlooking is Joe Mixon, because I think that's going to put the weight off of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase in the passing game, who I think they're like top 3 in passing this year.
Something like
We'll have
that.
to look at that, whatever.
Got it.
But I think if Joe Mixon keeps the weight off of Joe Burrow, that gives them a really strong chance to win this and win this strong too, to be honest. But of course, it's Patrick Mahomes. He can do whatever he wants in 13 seconds sometimes. So,
Yeah.
And then as well, the Bengals pass rush. It seems like every time they play the Chiefs, they just turn it on, even though they're not like the greatest in the league. Honestly, what they got, like Hendrickson or something?
I'm gonna come in here with that. I mean, yes, you're right. They're not the best in the league, but they are severely underrated for how well they are on defense. And it might just be their defensive coordinator. But like, I remember watching them last year and going, "Oh my God! Like this defense is good enough to hold." What did the Chiefs score in the second half last year? What, like 3 points? Yeah.
3, yeah.
It was ridiculous. I'm just totally with you. I think that they're not the best in the league, but God, I love the Bengals defense, and I think their defensive coordinator. I've been shocked that I haven't heard any news about him getting hired.
Right, and I mean, I was just gonna point out they're not the greatest in the league, but they seem to just turn it on when they need to.
Yeah.
And I think they'll do it again against the Chiefs here. I think they beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs.
Whoa! He's calling it.
I'm calling it.
He's calling it.
My score is 28-24 here. I think it's Bengals-Niners in the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, and I understand that, and everything that they got. But Joe...
Alright. Count to 5 and then go again.
Joe Burrow is just as hot as he ever could be, and he's hot too.
All right.
That was funny in my head. That was funny in my head. That was funny in my head. We're gonna cut that.
It's like cell phone.
We're gonna cut that.
Cell phone.
Okay. Oh. That caught me so off guard.
I did not just say that.
No, you're good. I mean, cut this out, but no homo. He's a very good looking guy, but still.
I was.
No, that was good. That was
I
good.
was gonna say that, but then it just like there was the pause, and I was like, oh fuck, I didn't. But
You're good.
the Bengals are as hot as ever. I just think they'll hand the Chiefs an L in this one, and I think they'll be at their second Super Bowl in a row.
I think it's good too.
No, I totally agree with you. The stats are going to back you up too. In his 6 playoff games, Joe Burrow is 5-1 against the spread. This game, I think the Bengals, just before we started this, they actually became favored. The line started at Chiefs minus 2.5. The Bengals are now favored. So if you wanted if you wanted some good value, right? Yeah, good value on the Bengals. Your time is over. I mean, the people have already swung. The Bengals are actually favored. Like I said, he's 5-1 in 6 playoff games. The other interesting thing about these Bengals playoff games, and it'll make sense when you start thinking about it, the under is 5-1 in Bengals playoff games. And we talk a lot about Burrow to Chase, and you just referenced how well the defense is played. The under is 5-1. Last week, 27-10. You think about the Super Bowl, 23-20. The game against the Raiders, like 24-17, something like that.
Yeah.
So these are low-scoring games, and again, their defense is playing so well. Trey Hendrickson, one of those underrated pass rushers in the league. Yeah.
Who's the other one? Is it Sam Hubbard? Is that
Sam
his name?
Hubbard.
Sam Hubbard's very good too. I like him. I like him. Did he really?
Yes, he did.
He really. Let's go Daxton Hill, who went to University of Michigan. He's pretty good too.
Yeah, well, Sam Hubbard's better. But no, the only game that went over the total was the Bengals-Ravens game from last week, and it went over by like half a point. It was 41 total points.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
So yeah, these games go under. These low-scoring games. It's crazy how the Bengals are doing this. They kind of remind me of the Niners in the way that they're winning these games. They're winning it with defense. Offense is doing just enough, and that's been the winning formula. And I agree, Bengals. I think they're going to win too.
Let me ask this question.
Yes.
Patrick Mahomes, was it confirmed a high ankle sprain?
Yes.
Yep.
We'll go Bengals then. I think their D-line, I think they're going to bring a lot of people at them. I think they're going to put a lot of pressure on the Chiefs. High ankle sprain is kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
He'll be able to play through it for sure, but that's...
Did you watch the injury?
I was not. No, I did not watch
Oh
it.
my goodness, it looked ugly.
Did not
Really?
look good.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it's only high ankle sprain. I saw clips of it, so, I somewhat saw it, but I guess in real time maybe it looked worse. But, I guess if you're telling me he's got a high ankle sprain, I mean, that's your star player right there. I'm not sure if he can do it. He's still amazing, though, so it's really hard to bet against the Chiefs. And like I said,
Yeah.
he's due for one.
Yeah.
He's due for one at some point. But I'm going to go Bengals, too. I'm a huge Joe Shiesty fan.
So let's think of the storyline here. If the Bengals win, that means Patrick Mahomes 2 conference championship losses in a row
To the same
against
team.
the Bengals. Will that narrative start going that maybe Mahomes isn't as clutch as people might say?
One thing that I
it
think
is.
we're going to realize too after this is that he does miss Tyreek a little bit. Like the offense,
Right.
it seemed like it didn't miss a beat for the most part. Kelsey had an unbelievable bounce back season, but there have been times this season even where they haven't won games by as much as they usually do. Think about that Broncos game from probably like a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
Like he misses Tyreek. I think in these clutch situations, and I think he's definitely going to miss him in this game.
And they went to overtime against like the Texans.
Yes.
One of the last couple weeks of the year.
Yeah.
I don't know. It wasn't the last week, so they weren't resting their starters or anything. They still needed that game. So it's like, where in the world did that come from against the Texans of all teams?
Yeah, the Chiefs are always they're almost. I mean, they're way better Bills, so I don't feel nearly as like unconfident as I do when the Bills play like one of these big games, right? Because it seems like every time that they're like, oh, the Bills can really. Oh, all right, well they lost.
Yeah.
The Chiefs obviously do win them, but there's a little kind of this. There's something growing, is what I'm saying. Like there's kind of something that you can point out, and you'll be like, that's. Mahomes is getting a little bit more, he's getting a little more nervous in these big games. Like he doesn't always come out when the lights are bright. So
yeah.
I don't think that he's not clutch. I'm not going to go out there and say that. But I do think that's an interesting way of looking at it. And I do think that, right, I think, does this solidify Joe Burrow over Justin Herbert for a lot of people?
I think he's already been there.
You
but
think
yeah.
so? You
Oh,
think
yeah,
so?
Yeah, I can't believe
But,
I can't believe
okay,
that
but you're
you
talking
said
about
that.
talent. Like, I mean, I think that in terms of you switch them on their teams, I'm taking Herbert. I'm sorry. I love Joe Burrow. Joe.
No.
Once again, I know you're watching
no,
too,
no,
Joe.
No.
Joe, I'm your biggest fan. I'm not even gonna lie, but Justin Herbert's probably a better football quarterback than you.
No, I don't
I'd
agree
say
with
that's
that.
a hot take.
What are you talking about?
No, one thing that Joe Burrow does
Justin
really,
Herbert can throw it off his back leg like 60 yards.
one thing that Joe Burrow does really well, and maybe this wouldn't be the case if he had anybody but Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson on his team, he trusts his receivers.
I mean,
He trusts his guys.
he does that better than anybody in the league.
He does. Like that's one thing that it's not like he's making these he makes some great throws, but
Yes.
it's not like these guys he's just throwing it on a dime every single time. I mean, and again, like I said, he does. But he trusts his guys. He trusts Jamar, and obviously that's built up over the years. That's why maybe drafting a guy that you've played with, like if the Bears draft Jackson Smith and Jigba, Justin Fields has played with him. That's kind of what I'm getting at. But he's got that trust. He's got that trust in T. Higgins. They've been together since his rookie year. That goes overlooked sometimes, and a lot of NFL players don't have that. A lot of guys don't. Aaron Rodgers had that with Devontae. Like even if he wasn't open, this is my guy. I know I'm going to throw it to him. Cousins with Jefferson. You know what I mean? So. I think that goes, underrated a lot. The other storyline I'm gonna.
Well, hold on. I want to interrupt you just
sorry.
quick, cause just because I have something on that point. Two things. One is due to that. There's an entire article written about that on the Ringer. It's written by Kevin Clark. It's incredible. It was written before the season, and that's what all of the Bengals wide receivers said in the article. They said, our biggest thing, reason why we stick with Joe more than any other player that we've ever played with in our entire careers, is that he trusts us more than anybody else. And that leads to some picks, right? He also only got one game a year. I remember it was the Bears last year. We had like 4 picks. This year was the Steelers' first game of the year. And the only other thing that I wanted to say on that note was, what quarterback never does that? Aaron Rodgers. And that's why
Not this year. Yeah.
I'm just saying, you think about, remember the Niners game last year where they needed a big play and everything? Well, Aaron Rodgers, right? His biggest thing is he goes, well, I mean, I don't want to ruin my touchdown to interception ratio. I mean, I only throw 1 pick every 3 years.
Right.
And so he doesn't throw these dangerous throws that Joe Burrow does. And I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
Sorry, you continue on.
No, the only other thing I was going to say is we're both all 3 picking the Bengals. We're both all 3 picking the Niners. So guaranteed Eagles Chiefs Super Bowl.
Guaranteed.
But think
Eagles,
about
Chiefs.
what's a big storyline that would come from Eagles Chiefs Super Bowl. There's one big headline. I think that if you think about it for a second, think about maybe the coaching staff. Andy Reid versus the Eagles.
Yeah.
Never won a Super Bowl for Philadelphia. Went to I think 4 straight NFC Championship games. Only went to 1 Super Bowl. Lost that obviously.
Yeah.
That would be pretty crazy if it was Andy Reid versus the Chiefs.
And that'd be pretty crazy if the Eagles were the reason Andy Reid didn't win another Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, that would be insane. But yeah, either way, I think we're gonna have a fantastic Super Bowl, no matter what combination of teams.
That's true. I completely agree with you there. Let's just throw it out now. We'll definitely, once we can reevaluate it. But say it was a Bengals Niners Super Bowl, who would you take right now? Say they just played this weekend.
I would take the Niners for the same reason that I took the Rams last year, because eventually Like the O-line for the Bengals played great. I don't even know if we talked about that. The backup O-linemen, they played great, but the Niners are just a different breed.
I mean, that's true.
They're a different breed. Kyle Shanahan's a different breed of coach. Christian McCaffrey's a different breed of running back. He didn't even have to do anything in yesterday's game, besides maybe catch a few 6 or 7 yard balls. He's going to explode in one of these next 2 games, I think, assuming they win. I would pick the Niners.
I would probably pick the Niners too, although I'm teeter-tottering right now because this Bengals team is better than last year's Bengals team.
They are.
And Joe Burrow forced them into contention late in the year last year.
He's wild.
He's doing that again this year. I just think he has a better course, better O-line. His team is
better everything.
Better everything, I guess. What I'm trying to say is that game was close in the Super Bowl last year too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering, since he has a better team this year, he almost pulled it off last year. Why couldn't he do it this year?
I'm going that route. I think that the Bengals would beat the Niners strictly because I think the moment has to catch up to Brock Purdy potentially eventually, and I think that Brock Purdy, as much as it would be so awesome to see Mr. Irrelevant win a Super Bowl, I just think that Joe Burrow, right? If you look, when you strip the game down to its core, yes, you'd say the Niners have a better coach, but that's usually how you can pick most games. Is you go, okay, who's the coach and who's the quarterback?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that Joe Burrow would put them in a better position. I guess it really all depends on how well the Bengals protect Joe Burrow from the Chiefs. Because if they have to run into Nick Bosa next round, he can't be getting hit 100 times with the Chiefs.
Right, yeah.
He's got to have fresh legs.
Yeah.
So.
Don't forget about Chris Jones, too. He's still a beast. He's still a beast.
I know. Yeah. So that's a scary one. But that'll do it for us. Thank you so much. We're really excited for what this 2023 year will bring. Tell your friends. Inside Sports Podcast. Yes, for the last time. It's with a DE capitalized. It stands for Daily Egyptian, obviously. Please be sure to listen to us on Spotify. Give us a like there. Give us a like and subscribe. Hit the bell on YouTube. Thank you so much. This has been Cole, Joey, and George.